Hi everybody, today I am very pleased to have here Inés Ruiz. Inés Ruiz comes from Spain, from Alicante, and she's a former Spanish professor at Cambridge University. She's right now living in the United States. And well, she has a BA and MA, Masters in Translation Studies, and also a Master in Education and E-Learning. And she started teaching when she was 23 years old, and still teaching, but right now she's more into business. Which business is this? Is Medita Spanish. So this is a way to learn Spanish by removing these false beliefs that we have regarding the learning of languages. So it aims to be the world's first guided meditation and language app. So she's going to tell us more of that in a moment. If you want to know more about Inés Ruiz and Medita Spanish, follow us. Well, Inés, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much, Esteban, for having me today.
Well, first of all, tell us, how did you end up living in the United States and create this company?
Well, I was living in the UK. I was living in Cambridge. I was teaching there, and I had a great job. I also, used to teach kids as well. So I had, different classes, and I love living there and working there. But then I met my husband. He's in the military. He's in the Air Force, American Air Force. So in some point, he just had to be restationed back to the States. So, of course, I was coming with him. But I thought, what's gonna happen to my career? As military spouses, we change location every 2 years, more or less. So it's like, okay, everywhere I go, I'm just gonna have basically to start from scratch. And in academia, that's pretty hard. So I was like, okay, I have all this experience teaching. I have my master's in e-learning. I know we can teach different. I don't like the courses out there about, be a Spanish teacher. What can I do to put all this together and still have something that can come with me anywhere I go? And that's where my first company, An Internacional, came around. It's a school, and we certify Spanish teachers. So that's how I put together all my passions in one, and then just being able to work and have my own business everywhere. So now we live in the States, and one of the things that comes up a lot training our teachers is the emotional connection, how important is the motivation, and all these other factors that nobody talks about in the traditional education. So we started to work more on that, and now that's what Medita Spanish came around. It's more about the mindset than the skills, right? There's a studies that show that 20% is about the skills and 80% is about your attitude, your motivation, your mindset. So we started developing a bit more on that, and mindfulness techniques, and how to be in the right mindset to learn Spanish, more than concentrating on just how to conjugate or how to learn new words, but more how your brain works and how your learning process is. So that's how I came around.
So have you tested this already with some people? And what is the feedback you have so far?
Well, we are testing it now with our beta students, and the feedback is amazing. Like, it's even better than what we expected, because, for example, with this, we have a meditation which is for before you do a Spanish class or before you start learning. So we have this meditation that it basically includes positive affirmations. So we just calm them down, not in a way that it's not a guided meditation that you just fall asleep, but it's what we call a mind active meditation that is going to help them feel more comfortable through the process of learning. And it's meant to prepare the mind to be a peak performance, to help the students master the Spanish language. So, for example, with this meditation, it's positive affirmation. So it goes like this: I'm open to learning Spanish. I understand that I will make mistakes. It's okay if I don't pronounce everything perfectly. It's okay if I feel uncomfortable. I know I'm getting better every day. So by doing those things, our students, and that's just like a 3-minute meditation. After that meditation, the students, get back to us and they are like, I feel so much lighter. I feel more relief. I feel I can do this. I feel that I've been putting too much pressure on myself, that it's okay for me to make mistakes. So the changes that you can have in a student within, 3 minutes, from that student being frustrated and feeling that, he or she is not good enough, or they are not good with languages, to a position where they feel like, I can do this. It's okay if I make mistakes, or it's okay if I don't do everything perfectly, or if I feel uncomfortable. So if we can change that mindset in 3 minutes, I think that will make their learning process ridiculously different as previous, before doing the meditation. So we're having great feedback, and we're just in the process now to have more research done at college level with control groups and things like that. So we are working on that. But the testimonials for now are just amazing, just with those little beta testing things that we've been doing.
I see. Well, and I suppose this is for everybody. There is no limit for age or any characteristics of the person.
No, what we do, it's more towards like adults, like, older teenagers or adults, because they are more, I will say that they might be more conscious about the mind process that we have. I'm sure at some point we'll develop something for children, but right now it's more for adults, and it's more about undoing what we have learned, while the kids are still, I will say, like, they have the best mindset, because they are okay making mistakes, they try things, and I think as we grow older, that's when we start, with perfectionism, self-criticism. So those are exactly the things that we want to undo on them or reduce them. For us, the best case scenario to learn is to have motivation up, anxiety down. That's how you can be at your peak performance, to be able to receive that class or receive that knowledge, or be open to have a conversation and be resilient. So it's like different things like anxiety, resilience, motivation, calmness, all those factors that are key in the learning process, but nobody is really paying much attention. Now we are seeing a bit more mindfulness techniques here in the States, but it's still far away from what I think it should be. More about it should be more about our learning process and how our minds work, more than the content itself.
Mm-hmm. How was your in your case? You learn English. You had to go through this process of cutting of limiting beliefs, or how was in your case?
I think one of the things that I was always very self-conscious. So I was always very self-conscious. I have anxiety, and other few things that were detrimental for me learning languages. So, for example, I knew when I was 14, I already knew I love languages. I wanted to have any sort of job that would let me use languages. It wouldn't matter what it was. And I was just like, I want to go to England. I want to learn English, which now it's very common, but back then it was not that common. There were not like cheap flights. The internet was barely making it, there was no Skype. So things were really different back then. And I remember, I was just a pain for years to my parents. I want to go to England, I want to go to England. And then I went there for the summer. And what happened is, the way we used to learn in Spain, or Europe, basically, about languages was a lot about books, right? And then what happened when I got to England, I couldn't understand a word. It was like the written language and the spoken language was like completely different words for me. I will do my test for them to, you will just do a test. They will put you in whichever level you should be for the summer. And I got to the highest one, but I swear I could not understand the word, and I didn't talk for a week. I did not. Like, the teachers were worried about me because I was just like freaking out, I couldn't understand anything. And then that's when I think when you are in survival mode, that's when all these fears that we have to deal with them. Like, I couldn't understand anybody. I have to, get over my anxiety, get over my self-esteem issues, get over my perfectionism. So I just had to start talking, and I just had, to go through this process because we need to communicate. So it was a very intense time for me, but that's how, in my case, I developed all those things, and how I realized, well, if I have a positive attitude, people are going to understand me. Maybe not perfectly, but by me just trying to have that try mindset, instead of, I don't know how to do this, I don't want to do this, and be very closed down, to have this open of, try new things and get out of my comfort zone. I think it was it was very shocking to me, that, changing culture, the language, and also thinking that I knew English, and then speaking it's a whole other world. So it was a lot of interior journey on, be more confident to have to stand up and say something, or have to try to say something somebody could understand me. So it was a more natural, under pressure kind of process to get to that mindset. But it was more in my years when I started teaching, because I realized I learned several languages. I studied English, Italian, French, Portuguese, Russian, German, Dutch. So it's like, I've been through this process. I don't speak all of them fluently, but, I study all of them, and, I actually was better in French and Italian than in English. And, it just comes and goes, the flow of the languages. But when I started teaching, I was like, okay, I feel that the way I was taught has not worked, because it was a struggle. It's not that I didn't learn, but it was a struggle. How can I make this process better for my students, and how can I make them feel in a safe place, and feel that, their self-critique needs to stay out of the room, or the perfectionist needs to stay out of the room. And that's when I started to develop, these more mindset techniques with my students, because I saw my struggle. So coming from my struggle, I was like, I don't want my students to go through that. What can I do different to make this a more enjoyable journey? It's not about the destination. It's not about being perfect in Spanish, but it's like, how can I make the journey there more enjoyable? I remember being frustrated, not being able to understand the things because they were not really explained or used. They just drop grammar at you, and that's it. That's how you learn languages. So I started changing the role plays in class. I started, making them feel comfortable. I would be okay making mistakes. I would do mistakes myself, and I would be like, you see, you see my accent. I have an accent, and it's okay. So, just making things more natural in class, instead of having these, figure of, you're the student, I'm the teacher, I'm perfect, and you are always wrong kind of role. So that's how mindset really started kicking in, when I had to apply it to my students.
So you have come through all these difficulties, all these challenges, and by experience, the mindset that the people have to have in order to learn the languages in the most efficient way, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder, can we have a little more detailed introduction to this application, how it exactly works?
Yeah. So what we do is like, okay, we wanted to do something that first of all helps the student. So we have what we call mindset guided meditations. So that is like a collection of meditation that are more for things like that happen on our daily lives, in terms of before going to class, before an exam, when I'm feeling anxious because I have a conversation, class or whatever it is. So it's more about facing the fears or facing those negative things that might pop up when we are learning. And then an example is the one I told you before, like the positive affirmation. That's one that we use before you do anything to do with the Spanish. Take those 2 or 3 minutes for you to just put yourself in the right place to be able to be open to learn, or to be open to do an exam and feel your best before doing anything that might be something that gives you a bit of anxiety or a bit, just put you in the right mindset there. And then we have what we call curriculum guided meditation. So for example, we have the Spanish curriculum. It's almost the same everywhere because it's always based on Instituto Cervantes curriculum. So the content in different forms, but the content of a beginner's level is the same all around the world. So what we've done is take those content and then make them again mind active, which means that you can be doing this exercise. It's not something that you have to be laying down, closing your eyes, but it's something that you can do when you go for a walk. It's something that actually we've tested that in movement, it works better. So for example, if we are talking about physical description, we ask you to do a visualization. So for example, I can tell you a little bit of that meditation. We will start by visualizing someone. Maybe it's someone you know or love. Keep the first image that comes to mind. Continue breathing. Inspira, expira. Imagining that person until the picture in your mind becomes clear. ¿Cómo es esa persona? Let's start by describing the physical characteristics. ¿Es hombre o es mujer? ¿Tiene el pelo largo o corto? So that's an example of how we integrate the content of the curriculum with a guided meditation. And then depending on the level, we have, for example, that's a level 1, that's a beginner's level meditation, but then as they progress and they go for intermediate or advanced, the amount of the Spanish goes higher. So for example, level 1, the Spanish, the content in Spanish might be like around 30%, intermediate, 60% of that meditation is going to be in Spanish, and we start adding like full sentences and, directions in Spanish, and then advanced is going to be everything in Spanish. So even within the meditations, we have developed a system that allows you to, in whichever level you are, you're gonna have something that suits your level of Spanish. So it's like a Spanglish meditation, let's say. We are building up, putting together those two languages, and we realize our students tell us that it's a very natural way of doing it. So it's like, for example, when I said inspira and expira, it's something that the students are like, oh, that's cool. We just put that in there in Spanish, and I didn't even notice. So it's like blending it in with their own language. So it's not like this big differentiation between English and Spanish, but it's like something that becomes more fluid, like languages are.
Mm-hmm. Well, interesting. And I suppose that right now you are focusing on Spanish, maybe not for the moment, but in the future, this model could be used for other languages as well.
We might think of that in the future, and also like maybe getting more into, the learning, how can we improve the learning processes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is a good insight into this application. We don't want to extend too much, but stay tuned, because this is going to stay for all the learners at the moment for Spanish. And well, it's a pleasure to having you here and explain this innovative project that you have received an award already, right?
Yes, we got a Startup of the Year and Tech Startup of the Year for the Stevie American Award.
Okay, next, so I would like to finish with testing your system. So let's try this meditation.
Awesome.
Okay, let's meditate.
We will start by visualizing someone. Maybe it is someone you know or love. Keep the first image that comes to mind. Continue breathing. Inspira. Expira. Imagining that person until the picture in your mind becomes clear. ¿Cómo es esa persona? Let's start by describing the physical characteristics. ¿Es hombre o es mujer? ¿Tiene el pelo largo o corto?
Well, this has been just a little taster of what Medita Spanish can do for the students of Spanish. I hope you have enjoyed this interview, and thanks a lot. Thank you, Inés, for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Simon, for having me today. Just wanted to say that.
See you another time.
Bye.
Bye.